Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 24th. It's 9:30 in the morning, unless you're listening to this on YouTube, in which case, welcome wherever you are, whenever you are. And welcome to all of us who are here for lesson 3 of Training Wheels, A Course in Miracles. We have done lesson 1. Nothing I see means anything. And you did lesson 2 last week with Cindy. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. Now we come to lesson 3, which is I do not understand anything I see. At this point, I'd like to ask you to turn your screens off and just sit and receive, and I'll just lead us through this so that you can have your experience of it. And I'll turn my screen off too. Lesson 3. I do not understand anything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. I do not understand anything I see. How gently does A Course in Miracles engage us in mind training? Gentleness is a hallmark of universal love, for without gentleness, resistance arises, and resistance causes all learning to cease. So sit in your seat and look without any judgment on whatever is around you. Be observant of your inner being, like yourself, be happy, and without judgment or distinction, just rest your eyes on what comes easily into your view. Look for as long as you want, or for as short a period as you want. If something catches your attention, look at it, but look lightly. For example, you might say, I do not understand this wall. I do not understand this pencil. I do not understand that tree. I do not understand the cat. Notice if there's any resistance or emotional response at all when you say the words. And that is all there is to this lesson. In thinking about today's lesson, it might be informative to consider the work of Sir Isaac Newton. Newton's work with the properties of light confirmed that what we perceive as color is merely a reflection of light waves. What we see as color is merely a reflection of light waves. Different things reflect light differently. Blue is the reflection of one wavelength. Red is the reflection of another. So it is perfectly true to say, I do not understand the light I see. And here's another thought. The color of an object is not really within the object itself. The red ball I see is not red. The blue ball I see is not blue. It's within the light that shines on it. We really do not see what we think we see. The human eye perceives only a limited range of possible colors. Do we really understand what we think we see? We don't see infrared, yet there it is. We don't see ultraviolet, yet it's there as well. How does it feel to know that you're not seeing everything that is in front of you? We have particular headsets in the form of eyes. As Francis Lucille says, they're biocomputers. Just forms of biotechnology. So we don't really see except what our technological headset allows us to see. I really am fundamentally uninformed. And once I know I'm uninformed, I can let go of form and reform my idea of the world, and yes, even reality itself. All these lessons have to do with seeing, and these lessons tell me I don't know anything based on what I see with the body's eyes. The eyes are a tool, but they're not reliable. We can appreciate the beauty they behold, but we have grown dependent on them as the arbiters of truth. Those who have near-death experiences routinely report that their vision improves dramatically when they're out of the body. Colors that don't exist in this world, they perceive, but they're not perceiving with their eyes. What are they perceiving with? Can you perceive with the same thing they do? It isn't just the body that doesn't see, it's also the heart. The heart has its own way of perceiving that doesn't rely on vision. Well, just as we sometimes say, open your eyes and look, we might also say, open your heart and feel. Twice a day, sit for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and gently look around the room, wherever you are. Rest your eyes easily. Like yourself, be happy with yourself, and say to yourself, I do not understand anything I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, wherever I am. And when you're ready, come on back. This lesson is beginning to loosen our minds from habitual seeing. And it's a primer of a lesson, but it is also for the most advanced student. This world requires us to perceive with the eyes every minute, every day. If we didn't successfully use this headset, we would walk into the bus. We would fall down the stairs, right? So it's constantly pulling us back into thinking that this reality that we see with the eyes is all there is. And yet we know that's not true. Right? This lesson is just opening the door for us to understand that projection is perception. It's asking us to use the senses beyond the body's senses to understand our world, to understand our being, to understand what we are and how we move and live in this seemingly separate self. It is slowly, gently disentangling us from outer form. At the same time, we have to have our foot in the camp of the physical, or we couldn't survive. What an amazing experiment this is. It's not wrong to see with the body's eyes. It's not a problem, but it is time to disentangle from what the body sees as the sole arbiter of reality. How do we do that? We begin to open to the heart and see there, which is a subject for another lesson. But for now, just practice today, reminding yourself yet again, oh, the tree is beautiful. The fall colors are beautiful. But I don't understand anything I see. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean we don't see beauty in it, doesn't mean we don't enjoy it, doesn't mean it doesn't light us up or that we don't find delight in it. It just means, oh, this isn't really all I think it is. And that's all I'm guided to say about this lesson. I'd love to hear from all of you about what you think of it. Let's look in the chat. Yes, we are on lesson 3. Barbara was telling us about a dream she had and some of the things she sees in the dreaming life. We all dream. And doesn't the dream image seem so real? It does. And that's such a great clue that what we see with the body's eyes isn't all there is. Livy, come on down.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's so wonderful to be with y'all this morning. So it's interesting where I am now and 30 years ago and the importance of 30 years ago. is because that was when I was first introduced to A Course in Miracles by a couple of friends. I was living in a new city. It's the first time I'd ever lived. It was San Francisco. I'd never lived in a city before. And I really didn't know anybody. I had moved there, and my best friend at the time lived there. And then she moved 6 months after I got there. And I was like, oh my gosh. And what happened for me was I met these people. I was introduced to A Course in Miracles. I literally moved out there with my guitar, my two cats, and some cassette tapes, and some clothes. And my friend had given me her furniture when I found a little studio apartment. But what I wanted to share was when I had this experience, I am a recovering alcoholic, and at that time, that was the first time I had put down the drink, and I was in an incredibly sort of raw, open stage, very, very just the prime for this experience, because everything was new, and it was a little bit uncomfortable, and my guitar was my source of comfort. And one night, and I had heard that the awakenings or whatever happen, and when it finds a space where there's no thinking. And I was at the most humblest point in my life that I'd ever been. And so one night I'm playing my guitar and just really getting lost in it. And then the next thing I knew, I was one with my guitar. There was no separation at all. It was like all of a sudden, there was no separation of anything. It just, everything just was one thing. And of course, I remember Wayne Dyer saying that the first time he levitated, when he started thinking, oh, I can go on Letterman or something, that he immediately hit the ground and it never happened again, because my ego gets in the way. But it was so startling, you know. And at the same time, I was so humble and so open to everything that all of a sudden these songs about non-duality just started coming through me. And so I wrote all these songs, and actually have a CD with some of them on it. And and these were things that I was experiencing, but really didn't have the knowledge to go behind it, if that makes sense, to understand. I didn't have the real understanding of what was happening. And today I realize that I was primed for that, because I was so in a state of humbleness. I was so kind of like a child in a whole new world without my best friend, alcohol. And it just, as I've been reflecting, it's like there's no coincidence that now I'm involved with this group who is studying Course in Miracles and helping me really understand what I experienced, you know. And I also had another experience that I will share at another time. I don't want to take up time, but it's, so I'm so grateful that I am coming back. I had relapsed and for 12 years, and but I have 15 years of sobriety now. But it just, I love trusting and being led to where I'm being led. And I'm so grateful that I've been led to this group who are helping me really understand the experiences that I had that I really didn't understand. And so I'm just wanted to say how grateful I am, and how relatable y'all make everything, as far as my deeper understanding. And I'm just really, really grateful. And just to be able to really practice the oneness that I experienced, and now have a better idea of what was happening then. And it's almost like exactly 30 years later. So I'm just very, very grateful and just wanted to share that real quick.
Thank you, Libby. And you know what Cindy says about taking too much time. She says you can't take too much time. Right? There's plenty of time. That's one thing we don't not only don't have, but we have as much as we want of. It's a paradox. So don't ever say that you're taking too much time. Sandra.
Good morning.
Your house is a beautiful backdrop.
Oh, yep, my office, they're working on the cables in my office, so I can't be in there, but thank you.
Beautiful.
It's so nice to be doing these lessons with you, Amy. And they're so fresh. Even though I've done them before, they feel very fresh and new. And what came to me when you were reading to us was, I do not understand anything, full stop. Not just what I see and perceive. I know this is going beyond the lesson, but that's what happens when you've done these many times. I do not understand anything, but I know things. And there's a clear difference here. The understanding was like, I could figure it out. I was always wanted to figure everything out. That was really my way of being, figuring things out. And I was pretty good at it, I thought. But now this I do not understand anything feels so comfortable, so at home and then I believe that because I know now that I don't really understand, that's when the heart opens.
That's right.
That you talked about the heart, perceiving with the heart. I've been thinking about something since yesterday. I was in this class with Lisa Natoli. I don't know if anybody else was in it, but at one point, someone asked the classic question, if awareness is love and beauty, why are these things happening in the world? Why is there war? Why is there horror? And she goes, I don't know what it means. And this lady was asking, I don't know what it means. And Lisa responded with, what if it doesn't mean anything? And I think everybody was startled. I shouldn't say that. I was startled because I've never heard that answer. I've always heard some non-dual interpretation of it, and that the world isn't real, the world's an illusion, all of that. But when she said that, what if it doesn't mean anything? What if it really doesn't? I've been thinking about that, and the mind doesn't like that. There has to be some meaning. And so then this lesson this morning, I mean, there's still a part of me that wants to say there is meaning in everything. I just don't understand it. That feels more comfortable to me. And I have been taught, and I relate to the idea that awareness comes constricted into this body to experience, and to experience itself in a way that it couldn't experience without coming into a dualistic environment for a while, and then breaking free of that dualistic environment. Not breaking free, but establishing itself. So I do not understand anything with the logic and the analysis, synthesis, evaluation, all those, higher order thinking skills that I can let go of and just rest in those things that I know to be true. And more is revealed. But it's not revealed in a linear fashion that I'm used to, like geometry proofs. I say that a lot because geometry proofs were my thing. I loved them. I love the elegance of it. This, and this, and then this, then this, and therefore this.
Mhm.
So this is, I can walk around thinking, I don't understand, but I know.
That's a good way to put it, I think. And the knowing doesn't come from seeing. It comes from within, some place within. And what we know can also change. We
Mhm.
think but the sense of knowing, that the power of knowing is always the same. But we may know something different today than we did yesterday. But it's the sense of knowing, it's the knowing itself that doesn't change. So the first lesson was nothing I see means anything. The second lesson is I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. Right? And my question with regard to knowing is, what do I know if I know I'm eternal and unlimited? How does that change my knowing? What does that do to my knowing?
When I use the word knowing, it's something that doesn't change. So I guess in the traditional sense of knowing, like I knew facts, but this is a different kind of knowing that doesn't change, that comes in and it hits me here in a way that I know is true. And it's fundamental. I don't really know how to explain it. And it doesn't need to be explained. It's just, I know.
Yes.
And but it doesn't mean I fully understand all the details of it or how to explain it to somebody else or how to make it seem logical in a world that is illogical anyway. So I guess that's all I have, but thank you for these lessons, Amy. I truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. You know, for me, it's also another word is certainty. It's a sense of certainty. And it's not something that I do. It's not something that I know. It's something that arises, right? So it's not a mental thing at all. It arises within. Cindy, come to the head of the table.
Thank you. I only have a few things. I'm going to hand it over to Richard. Oh, to David. See, I'm imagining Richard's hands raised. It's not raised yet.
Okay.
First, thank you. Turning the video off and just listening to your words. I had an experience of something that just felt open and peaceful and beautiful. And I'm just so grateful for this and for us. Second, I may have heard it incorrectly, but I would have sworn Livy said that she had a CD, and I'm feeling like I don't understand why I don't have access to that CD yet.
I
So
knew you would say that. I knew it.
I'm
Yep.
very uncomfortable with the fact that I don't have her music accessible to me. Everybody knows how much I love music, how much we do music in an open door, and why is she keeping that apart from us? So can you correct that, Livy? Thank you. The third thing that came up was a teaching from Loch Kelly that is related to this lesson, right? And he just, when we did it in taking another look last year some point, but it's just the understanding, you know, I don't understand anything I see. He says it's, you know, we touch here, you know, I can feel touch. It feels like it's in the body. Sound gets received and it feels like I'm hearing sounds here. But there's this experience that I am seeing something outside of myself. Only the seeing actually, from a biological standpoint, happens in the brain. And every time I sit with just that pointing, it kind of blows up somewhere in here because I'm sitting here and the sensory perception is that I'm here and the plant but there's no, I can't prove that because the seeing is happening here in the brain. And what is it that is interfering? Like literally there is an attention or a direction. Something is directing the movement to a point supposedly outside of myself that is interpreting something it sees and then is reflecting back into this biological system, and then it's being interpreted, and somehow it's telling me that I'm having an experience of me being here and that plant being there, and it's just not true, even scientifically and biologically. And my system can't sit with that very long, but I always find it really useful to say it out loud because it's a mind blower, right?
It is a mind blower. And what is so ingenious about it is that I can perceive the computer screen right there. And then I can not only do that in my own mind, but I can create the tactile sensation that says that screen is real, it's solid. That's genius. The mind that has created this system is beyond belief. And that's what we are. That's our true genius. We are those geniuses.
And then to just connect it, you wrote about it in lesson 2, and we've talked about it more than once. And it somehow it's come up while I'm sitting with Sandra's knowing versus understanding and all that stuff. Where do the 12 ships fit in that whole thing, right? So my attention somehow based on my current conditioning lands on something supposedly out there, and then it feeds information back here and then tells me I'm seeing something out there. But what it's telling me I'm seeing can only be based on my conditioning, which is why you can't see the 12 ships if it's not part of your current level of programming.
I would add one more thing for us to think about with this lesson because we're advanced students. And that is to play with the sensation, and that's not even the right word for it, that everything that we are perceiving is arising within the space of consciousness. Silence. I just still everything. There are no boundaries. There's just space. And that is what I am. The consciousness, the awareness of itself as this open spaciousness. And everything that this body perceives is actually arising within the open space of consciousness. That's where it's all truly happening.
So just to add one more thing to it. No, I can't. Again, it was Finding Truth Everywhere, one of the classes. Maybe someone remembers who talked about it. It's the sharing of the consciousness within the group, right? So going back to the tall ship example, I think it was Greg Braden. Now I remember. He said because there was a shaman on the shore, the shaman had a level of consciousness held within his space that allowed for the unseeable to be seen, right? Which is why when he was given the information that the ships were out on the water, because his consciousness rose to the level of being able to see what his human conditioning didn't allow him to see, he was able to see it. But then Greg Braden took it one step further and said that everyone in his village that held within his consciousness, sort of like the 100th Monkey kind of series, what Greg Braden had indicated was because his village trusted him and was connected to his consciousness because he was able to see it, they were then able to see it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but something really trusts that relative to what we're doing here, right? Is that landing?
It absolutely lands, and I want to give the floor to David. I just want to say, we used to believe the earth was flat, and that's all we saw, right? We still believe in linear time, and that's all we see and experience. It is not until we open the mind and break down the habitual patterns of perception that we begin to expand our reality. And that's what this is doing. David, come to the head of the table.
Okay. So what I'm thinking is my perception is there has to be an answer for everything. And if and if I can't figure it out, I'm stupid. I mean, and then after that, if I can't make it, I have to fake it because it's just like I don't want to admit that, but not knowing leaves the door open for whatever really matters can come on in, but it's so lonely to feel like I can't figure it out. I mean, I don't know if that's a cause or an effect. I bet, I'll have to think about that one for a while, but I think it's a cause. I'm here all by myself. So the only person who can figure this out is me. And so if I can't, well, there must be something wrong with me. But if I'm sitting here if I believe that it's okay and I can sit here and not be knowing, it's almost like I can be part of whatever there is, and that's very comforting and reassuring, and feels like that's where I need to be, not all by myself trying to figure these things out. I don't know if that makes any sense. It maybe the fact that it doesn't make any sense is something that I needed to say, because stuff in my head doesn't make any sense a lot of the time. So anyway, so today that's what I'm thinking just right now, and so I'm going to work on that.
I have to ask Alka. Alka says it does help to fake it, Joe. What does that mean? Can you say more?
Beg your pardon?
I want Alka to tell us what she means by her comment. It does help to fake it.
I was listening to Joel Goldsmith, and he suggested that you see the being of God resides in everyone. And if you don't feel it in the beginning, you just fake it. And I started to do that. And one day I was talking to my friend, and there was this, nothing big happened, but there was this subtle shift. And I had the perception that God was speaking through her. There was no goosebumps, there was nothing, but something shifted and it happened. So up till that point, I was just faking to myself, whenever I was angry with somebody, as God's being resides in him or whatever, but there was a shift eventually. So that's
Thank
what I
you.
mean.
So that was practicing the presence. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Richard can come down just a sec. I wanted to just say to David that one of the reasons that I think we're all so grateful for each other is that when we begin to wake up, and that's not a term I really, I'm trying to find another term for that, but I'll use that for now. The world is so hard on those who are waking up. It's not easy. And so we need to help each other. We need to say, you're not crazy. I understand. I have that experience too. I like you. I appreciate you. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for making me feel like I'm not alone by sharing that you feel alone.
Oh, yeah, what popped in my head is Flowers for Algernon. And when Charlie, started waking up, it was so hard for him to wake up after he'd been, sort of, not very with it for most of his life. And it's kind of the same thing. It's waking up, then you see all these things, oh my God, look at that, the things that I hadn't even paid attention to. And so all of a sudden it's like I know I can't say I talk too much, but anyway, looking at the lesson, that when I was reading lesson 2 or 3 today, whichever one it was like, I'm reading this for the first time because who I am today wasn't who I was yesterday, who I was the last time I read this. So the lesson is the same, but I'm different. And that makes it more fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra. Yes, Mr. Rogers is my friend. Very much. Yes. Richard, come on down to the head of the table.
Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I had the time to, what the lesson reminded me of was another quote from the Course. And I was able to look it up. It was from a lesson 135. And it says, what could you not accept if you knew that everything that happened, all events, past, present, and to come, are generally planned by one whose only purpose is your good? And so that's what came to mind when we read the lesson. My experience has been, as long as my life is okay in my mind, whatever I believe it to be, I'm okay. But when something happens in my life that's not okay in my mind and my belief system, then I think is wrong. It should be the way I want it to be in order to be at peace and be happy. And to come to the realization that everything happens, even the bad stuff and the good stuff, are planned for me to learn who I truly am and to identify with that what I am, and to then be able, once I embody that in my belief system, I can then share that or extend it to everyone and everything in my awareness. So that's what the lesson led me. But as you always, the sharing, of course, expanded my consciousness, my awareness of everything you were saying about the Indians not being able to see the ships, the limitations of our seeing in terms of the spectrum of what we know scientifically, and also the fact that there's only one of us that believed that we separated from our source. And we all think we have these individual lives that are being expressed and that are different than anybody else's life. And what we're experiencing as dream figures is we are the opposite of what reality is. And reality is experiencing this opposite through our dreams, our dream lives. And recognizing that I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, get back to where we really are. And putting that in charge of our experience in the life that we seem to be living, rather than believing that what we see is the truth. So I love you all. I love this group. I love the sharing. So thank you all.
Thank you, Richard. It's kind of a tough one in a way, this whole thing, you know, who is asking the question about what does this mean? That's a good one, Rana. One of the things Helen Hamilton says that I really like, and I was listening to her again this morning, is when something happens that you don't like, you can say, oh, well, I'm going to rephrase this. Helen kind of alluded to, if something happens that I don't like and I'm not really awakened, I will just say, I don't like that. It should be different. Right? But an awakened person would say, oh, well, I really would like it if that didn't happen. Oh, well. Right? Oh, well, it's happening, you know. And her point was that it's not that things don't happen that we don't like. We don't like everything that happens just because we know we are eternal, holy, one, and that there is nothing else but the oneness. Things still come up in our experience. Why? Why is that? Because we are the oneness having the experience of being separate, of being apparently separate. It's just doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? But the egoic mind will say, well, I made that happen, or I should be able to change that. That's where it gets sticky. But it's really like, oh, well, this is what's coming up right now. Huh, I don't like it. That's okay. Oh, well. What do I do next? And asking, what should I do next? What should the next step be? And then listening for it. But not getting into the blame of, I should understand this. I should know what to do. I do see what this is for, and it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So allowing and allowing and allowing, and coming back and back and back to allowing is forgiving. forgiving is not forgiving something that's wrong. It's realizing there's nothing to forgive and being gentle with ourselves because, oh, I thought there was something to forgive.
May I say something? I didn't raise my hand.
Come on in.
We have our 12-stepping meeting at noon, and right now there's not a topic. And it's so interesting, this topic that just got started, there's a whole bunch of things I could say about it. Like, why did my daughter's car get stolen for the 3rd time in 1 year? You knew that would make, I'm waiting for Richard to laugh. We don't have a quote unquote leader for the 12 o'clock meeting. I'm feeling to bring this topic to the 12 o'clock meeting, and maybe I'll start with that story. But this idea of why do bad things happen, or why is this happening to me again, seems like a great thing for us to explore deeper. And so I'm just stating it out loud. Because it's alive, at least in me right now.
Well, I think
Yeah, go ahead.
that's a good question. A 3rd time the car gets stolen. I mean, one would be tempted to feel like they're very special, but not in a good way.
Well, one of the ideas again, and I'll bring it up later, but one of the thoughts that came up that I've just been sitting with without owning the whole forgiveness is, I didn't process something completely, so my poor daughter has to go through this again. Like the ego is attempting to make me responsible and guilty for something going on in the world. It's such an interesting space, right? And what's very interesting is I just said that out loud, and something here is still wanting to own that. Like, if I was better at this whole consciousness, spirituality, cause and effect, like, let's heal things once and for all thing, then we wouldn't have to be going through this again. Like, the neck pain just started, a dizziness in the gut. It's so interesting, isn't it? I don't own it, but I'm experiencing. I'm gonna pass it to Richard. But anyway, wanted to say it out loud. There must have been a reason why we didn't have a specific leader for later. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard,
Richard.
come on around. And Livy, enjoy your day.
Hi again. Interesting comments. What came to mind was, it's not that it happened for the 3rd time. It's, why did I perceive it the way I did? So, and your perception is what the lesson, wherein the lesson lies, the healing lies. If your perception is it is what it is, no big deal, I'll just extend the love that I am, that's one reaction. If the perception is, why did I create that event? When you know you didn't create the event, then that's a lesson to be learned. So I think that's what the Course is talking about. It's not when it talks about a certain thing recurring again and again in your life or your experience, is really talking about how you perceive the event. And when you perceive the event as just an go process or thought that's going through your experience, and you don't give it any meaning or value, then your mind is healed, and it probably won't happen again. But so I think the issue is about perception, not about the actual what you think happened. So
Great reminder. That's great, Richard. Cindy, do you have anything to say about that?
Here's what I say about that. We have an hour and a half until the 12-step meeting. I did not, like, there was something in here that wanted to defend, and I didn't. What I'm saying is I am going to embrace what Richard just said and get as still as possible and see what, Livy's not here, but she's the one that said we do everything and then for the first time. So an hour and a half from now, the world's going to be different, and it'll be very exciting. Well, it'll be interesting and beautiful to see how time works. That's what I want to say. How long does it take for us to be healed? How long does it take? Like the mind wants to say this is the third time in a year. That's a linear time space. It's going to take forever to heal whatever's going on, lifetimes. But how long does the holy instant take? So I'm
Well,
excited.
all right. Any other comments about perception or what we see or don't see? So practice this lesson today, at least one more time. Oh, Barbara, come on down.
I just love this class. You give me so much insight, and I do think I have to change my perception on things, how I perceive them. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So give yourself the gift of practicing this and just looking around and saying, I don't understand anything I see in this place through this window. Whatever it is, just do it again. Do it as often as you're moved to do it today. You might be moved to do it 10 times. You might be moved to do it just once. Do it as often as you are, as it comes up in your awareness, as it arises for you. And just see what happens. Just see what happens. We don't have any idea what will happen. It's just a moment of opening. That's all it is. That's the meditation for today. Sitting, looking around. I don't understand anything I see. It doesn't mean I have to not like it, or I have to like it, or I have to attach any meaning to it. I just don't understand it, and leave it at that. Right? Don't go any deeper. Love us. Thanks for being here. See you at noon.